I just want to say before I get into the content of the video, is just how much the old VHSs of manga series adaptations were. For instance, the first thing that you ever see is this. That's just awesome, is it not? You know, what is there to say? It basically shows you everything that was around at the time, and absolutely everything that gets flashed up on that video, like on that intro, is just awesome. And it made me get into more than I ever would just by buying a couple of animes. Street Fighter 2, the animated movie. I was 13 when I bought that, and that was the intro. It was on the intro of every VHS copy of anything you could buy, from Akira to Ghost in the Shell to everything. Everything started with that. It got me into rock music, it got me into like anime, everything. Just brilliant. Just in those clips that you see in that video, you just see the quality of the animation and the amazing like technical ability of these artists that worked on all that stuff from the 80s through to the early 90s, and well, mid to late 90s as well. Again, it all just needs more love, which is the point of this video. So let's just get into it. Hello, welcome to my first green screen attempt. It's probably going to look really shocking because my computer isn't that good and I really need to iron this backdrop. But anyway, welcome. Today we're going to talk about the Guyver. From hopefully the manga, the original TV series from the late 80s and early 90s, the two movies that they made, regardless of how good or bad they were, and the AOV, the new series, newer series that was done, I think, between 2006 and 2007. All the subsequent sort of franchise and toys and cartoons, all the rest of it was based on a Japanese comic series, a manga. 1985, I think it came out, and it's still running today on its original storyline. New characters have been added and so on and so forth, but I'm pretty sure it's still running. I unfortunately have never actually held a physical copy of this in my hand. I've read some of it online, mainly around the first sort of 12 episodes, to just sort of do a screen comic comparison. The original series of it was done by Yoshiki Takaya. I hope that's right. It's long running, it's still going today, and there's no sign from my ignorant Western eyes that it's going to stop anytime soon. So it's still there and it's still running. There was a first attempt at an adaptation that was a very quick sort of one-shot deal called Guyver, Out of Control, and it was round about an hour and a half sort of thing, and it missed out a lot of information, lots of bits here and there and story things. Threw in a lot of stuff that happened later on to add it in, make it more exciting, and it was crazy. And I believe that was around about 1986 they did that one. So that was a really old, all the hand-drawn animation is really well done. It's a bit strange in places, but it's really well done. It's worth a look if you like this series. It's one of those things that's interesting to look back on if you've seen the original series that they did that followed it, and the newest series that they did, and then to see Out of Control is it's like watching a prequel sort of origin story, but only for animation, not chronological wise, not chronologically, just animation wise. Anyway, moving on. The Guyver. It was, well, I know it was started in 1989, and I think the episodes finished coming out in around 1990 or 91, and the first 5 parts of it were really well done, really well drawn. The story was really tight, and the whole thing was just really good. And then unfortunately there was sort of a gap in production in the middle of it, and from 6 to 12, because it was just a 12-part series, the animation was shifted off to a different studio. The budget was like slashed in half, and it shows, unfortunately. They fly a little bit more loose with the story, and the animation is visibly worse. From the manga studios that produced the animations like Akira and Ghost in the Shell and things like that, I haven't seen a worse example of animation than the last few parts of the Guyver, the Bio Booster Armor Guyver, the original series. It was just, unfortunately, visually bad, but it was still good to see the end of the story. It still, you know, it was good. The Guyver, or Mutronics as we got it over here on this side of the pond, starred an unknown actor that to this day I always forget the name of, and Mark Hamill. There's so many hilariously bad things in it. It was treated like a B monster movie, and yeah. The Guyver costume effects were really good. Like, it was amazing as a fan of the series to see it brought to life physically. The monsters, however, they didn't resemble the Zoonoids. That's the name for the creatures that are sort of the antagonists of the series. They started to look like B-movie monsters rather than these sort of based on animal human hybrid crazy horrible monster creatures that were animated, and in the original comics they started to look like Americanized B-movie monsters that just weren't good. I mean, they weren't bad. The actual creature effects themselves were brilliant, especially for the time. It was around the time that the first Ninja Turtles movie had come out, the very first one with Jim Henson's puppetry and things like that, and that sort of set the bar. And the Guyver followed that, and arguably the puppetry and the actual costumes were better. Just the designs, unfortunately, more resembled B-movie monsters rather than keeping in a strong sort of tradition of the manga Japanese monsters that these characters were based on. The story's ridiculous. Mark Hamill is hilarious, but he's clearly not trying to be hilarious. He's really taking this role seriously, or at least, well, no, he's not. He's definitely phoning it in, but he is playing a serious role, and he's taking it about as seriously as an actor would take a paycheck role seriously. He's trying to be as serious as the script requires him to be. There's no irony, put it that way. There's a few bad jokes in there that he tells, and ultimately he's the best character in it. He's probably the most likeable. There's loads of funny things in that, like main character from the original series has a love interest throughout the entirety of the things that I've seen, called Mizuki or Mizuki, and the writers of the first Guyver movie misheard this quick pronunciation of Mizuki to Miski. So they call their character Miski, and it's hilarious to me. I don't know if anyone else finds that kind of thing funny, but I do. The other thing is that it ends with Mark Hamill being turned into one of these creatures, and there's a point in the film where there's just a great big thing coming out of Mark Hamill's face, and all you've got is Mark Hamill's surprised eyes. I'm going to see if I can flash that up on the screen for you. It's beautiful. Anyway, that's enough about that. Go see it. If you can. I mean, hell, torrent it. It's old enough, but you can get a director's cut Blu-ray of that movie. Why anyone would want more of that movie is beyond me, but just a shout out to Mr. McJaffer. He probably would. Then there was Guyver, Dark Hero, the sequel. That really tried hard to take away the ridiculousness of the first film and make it a really hard edge, ultra-violent type thing. And as I said in my previous video, it did just come out as sort of Power Rangers with blood, limbs getting chopped off every now and again. So there's that. There's really not much else to say about that film. It was really enjoyable as a 13-year-old when I saw it, when I was really going through, really loving all the Guyver stuff that had come out so far. It was brilliant. David Hayter, I think his name is, was the main character this time, playing the same character from the first film, but different actor obviously. And he since then has been trying to direct and star in a third movie, and it's just never come off the ground, and I have a feeling it never will, unfortunately, but because it would be brilliant. It goes more into the story that was presented in the comics and the original series and so on. They find one of the original creator ships, that's what the characters are called. Just so you know, I'm trying to do this so that I don't give any major plot points away of any of the stories, because it really is best to watch it, especially the latest anime series, because it's episodic and you want to know what's going to happen next. And then I suggest going back and watching the terrible movies, because then you see what they really tried to do and what worked and what didn't. In Guyver Dark Hero's case, the things that worked were the really well done special effects, costumes once again were really good. The martial arts in it were really good. They clearly had really good stunt performers and things like that. The story, script-wise, isn't great, but it has its moments where it's actually good, the dialogue's good and so on, but there are bits where the dialogue's really bad. And the acting, I'm going to blame it more on direction than acting, was bad. It's best to go watch it, because like I say, I don't want to give away too many plot points and things like that, because it's a really complicated storyline. If you're right into it, it's difficult to explain. After all that came the latest animated series. Now, arguably the best adaptation of the original source material. Up until recently, it was available everywhere on DVD. It's a 24 or 26 part series. It goes right into it. It goes further than the original anime, the 12-part series. That it goes way beyond that. It goes way beyond the out of control that preceded that. It's a really good adaptation. A little bit more family friendly than the source material or the first couple of animated things, or even the movies to a degree. Again, it's hard to describe, but I'm gonna give it a go. The main character, or main two characters, are Sho and Tetsuo, who are school kids. They're in Japan, I believe. They go to school till they're about 18, so they're somewhere between 16 and 18. There is Tetsuo's younger sister, Mizuki. The two guys are out after school one time. It seems to go along the lines of any kind of teenage drama to begin with, although it cuts to something else that's going on that you don't quite understand until this event happens. So the guys go to the woods somewhere, and they go to a lake where they hang out and throw stones and talk rubbish and what have you, and then an explosion happens a few 100 feet away from where they are. and something comes flying over to them from there, which turns out to be a Guyver unit. Now, the Guyver units, they look like little landmines. They've got an inner structure of sort of tentacles, is probably the best way to describe it. I know what you're thinking, and it's not that. There's a big circular piece of metal in the middle and shards of armour around the outside, all in a circular thing that again looks like what you'd imagine a landmine to look like. They somehow end up activating it, and it bursts out of its sort of shape onto shore, and then totally engulfs him, and he falls into the lake. When he comes out of the lake, he's got the suit on, which is the Guyver, and it's this bio armour. As the series goes along, he finds out more and more about what the suit can do in regards to power, and it can levitate, it can shoot lasers out of his head as well as his chest, and he's got a gravity weapon that comes from sort of the belt buckle. And there originally were 3 Guyver units. He picked up the first one. Where they came from was a dig site that an evil corporation that makes itself known fairly early in the series, so it's not too much of a spoiler to tell you what they are. They are called Kronos, and they excavated the Guyver units, and what it turns out the explosion was a rogue employee took the units and ran off with them, and then ended up having to blow himself up because he got cornered by Kronos. Again, I'm trying to explain this without giving anything away, because once you get into it, and it just becomes really exciting and it's fun and so on. The second Guyver unit falls into the hands of a Kronos agent, and the third one is a bit of a mystery for the first few episodes. It seems to disappear, and there's a shady character in the woods following the guys around. Basically, as soon as this all happens, Kronos figures out who Sho and Tetsuo are, the 2 main characters, and they follow them. And it becomes almost like your worst nightmare scenario of a conspiracy theory. You know, the big evil corporation finds out who you are and just knows everything about you almost instantly, and they come after his friends and his family, they come after the school, they basically put the guys on the run, where they meet loads of other people that are, for lack of a better term, resistance fighters against Kronos as well. It gets so far into it, you get to know so much about the evil company, you get to know more about the Guyver and its origins and where it comes from. There's a wonderful storyline. I'm sure it inspired the terrible documentary Ancient Aliens by the History Channel. It deals with ancient aliens coming to Earth. Now, bearing in mind this storyline comes from like 1985, where that concept from a popular culture viewpoint had just not even entered the zeitgeist. No one was aware of this concept, or at least not your average Joe anyway. That I'm sure people were aware, but I'm trying how to explain it without ruining everything. But yeah, the whole thing is really worth watching, especially that most recent series. It seems to, I don't know why it died. Obviously the manga series is still going strong in Japan. The DVD enjoyed quite a good life for a while, but it's 10 years old now, or more, and everybody's forgotten about the Guyver. There are people my age that still list it right up with Akira and Ghost in the Shell and Patlabor and Cowboy Bebop and all those really what's now known as old school, because everything that happens now happens because of those. Anime has taken a strange turn, in my opinion, and the state of it is debatable. There are fans of it and there are aspects of new stuff that I really like, but Guyver always comes up in my mind as one of the greatest storylines in Japanese animation and manga. It never seems to get what it deserves, which is a lot of credit for a lot of different sci-fi elements ending up in Hollywood movies. It just needs more love, basically. I'd urge you guys to go out and buy at least the latest series, the Bio Boosted Armor, and watch the terrible movies as well, because they're fun. They're good bad movies. So yeah, that's all I've got to say about that. It's something that I really love and I just wanted to share with you guys. So thank you very much for watching. I don't know what I've done with this so far, but let's see how it works out in the edit. Thanks very much everyone for watching. It's very, very nice of you to have made it to the end of my video. Like, subscribe if you feel like it, and I'm not going to promise what my next video is going to be because I don't know what it will be and I don't know when it's going to happen yet, but thank you again for watching and hopefully see you soon. Oh yeah, I did some test footage and I'm probably going to string that onto the end of this video, so enjoy.